Hello, everyone. Really pleased to be able to join you all today for this conference and share some of the work that we've been doing here at EY. It's definitely been a very busy few months for us, certainly busier than usual as we've been responding to a lot of the change we've seen as a talent function. And I'm sure everyone attending the conference today can also appreciate that. I wanted to take the opportunity today to share with you some of the work that we have been doing to diversify our talent pool here at EY, and specifically to be attracting more technical STEM talent into our changing organization. Before I dive into that, just a bit about myself. So I am Farrah. I lead our employer brand team for our EMEA financial services region. Our region specializes in the FS sector, and we operate across 18 countries within Europe, the UK being the largest one of them, where I'm currently based here in London. And I've been in the role now just coming up to 6 years within EY, always working within the employer brand space, but I've certainly seen a lot of change in that time, not only in terms of who we are as a business, but also really the scope and remit of what we do within the talent attraction space. So it's been hugely interesting to be part of that. So I'm hoping some of you in the call today will be familiar with EY, or Ernst & Young as we are formally known. We are a global professional services organization with just over 300,000 people worldwide. Last year alone, we received over 2 million applications to our roles, which resulted in 69,000 hires. So we do recruit in quite high volumes, and it does keep our community of recruiters quite busy throughout the year. Now, many people have this perception that at EY, we are an accountancy firm. And our heritage businesses, such as accountancy and audit and tax, have definitely been a huge part of who we are, and they've played a really big part in the success that we've had over the last few years. But actually, there's so much more to us than meets the eye. We also operate a consulting arm. We operate across strategy and transactions. And those individuals work alongside all of our people within core business services as well. And what I would say has been one of the biggest pieces of change that I've seen in the time that I've been at EY is the shift that we are making towards digital and technology. And last year, we introduced a new strategy in line with the new global chairman and CEO. And the emphasis in this new strategy, which we call Next Wave, was very much responding to a lot of the change that we're seeing in the external landscape. So we are starting to see the impacts of megatrends like globalization, demographic shifts, environmental shifts. And what it has meant is that our clients across all sectors and industries are actually looking for very different services from providers such as ourselves. So we put a lot of investment, not only in terms of budget, but also in terms of time and resource to really diversifying our portfolio for our clients across all sectors within the business. So that's been hugely exciting. However, that does pose a big challenge for us from a talent attraction perspective. And the challenge we have is that in the past, we tended to recruit a very fixed set of profiles. We would often reach out to individuals who had backgrounds in business, accounting, and finance, kind of really living up to that perception of us being an accountancy firm. Now, although we are a recognizable employer amongst that audience, when it comes to the STEM audience that we started to see was much more in demand across our business, we actually have a really big challenge. This audience either does not know who we are, or they know who we are, but they don't necessarily think that we are an employer that's going to be relevant for them because they don't understand or see the link between their skills and experiences and the types of roles that we have across EY. And what you'll see here on screen is some of the common bits of feedback that we get. Being a Big Four firm, people think we're quite monolithic. There's not a lot of differentiation between us and some of our competitors. We are not seen to be as creative or innovative as some of our counterparts in the tech space. And it's really difficult for them to understand what a career at EY might look like in comparison to some of these other industries out there. So we knew that we had a lot of work to do. And I think a really great demonstration of the challenge is if you actually look at our universal rankings. Every year we look to this to kind of benchmark how we are doing as a brand. Last year, we were ranked #2 globally behind Google amongst business students, but actually amongst our STEM audiences, we just about made the top 50. So a real clear discrepancy there that really signaled to us we had a lot more work to do not only in terms of building our awareness as an employer, but also to look at how we were working internally and how we operated as a talent function and what we needed to really switch up to make sure that we were appealing to that demographic. So I'm going to say up front, this is a journey we are still very much on. We definitely not crossed the finish line, and I don't think we ever will with the pace of change. But it's something that we really started to focus on a couple of years ago. And in the first instance, when we started to see this demand from a lot of our hiring managers and teams, we wanted to really understand actually what were the different roles that we had on offer? What were the very specific skills that our hiring managers and our leaders were looking for within their teams? And that allowed us to build up these different personas and profiles, not to really put anyone into boxes, but just for us to start to get a better understanding of who this audience is and how they might differ from the audiences that we had communicated to previously. And you'll see here, there's lots of different attributes that people will be looking for from an employer, and you will all be very familiar with this. And what we have found really helpful, particularly as we started and embarked on that journey, was leveraging a lot of the really great insights and material from some of the great folk over at Universe and who we do partner with quite closely. And this made it really clear to us, yes, we can see there are some distinctions between this audience and the profiles that we have recruited from in the past. We knew they were looking for inspiring leadership. They wanted to be dedicated to a cause and some greater purpose. They wanted to see clear paths for advancement, and the culture and the ways of working and that flexibility we offer was also going to be really key. So that was really our starting point. At a global level, we also wanted to make sure that we had a lot of tangible material that we could share with our recruitment community, our employer brand colleagues, as well as our hiring managers and individuals from the business. So we did a lot of research into the candidates, understanding their career drivers and motivations. We held a number of focus groups, both internally and externally. And it was really enlightening, actually, to speak to some of our existing technical profiles within the business to understand, what was it about EY that attracted you to us? But actually, have we been delivering on the promises that we made to you throughout that recruitment process? What is it that has made you stay? And where do you think there are opportunities for improvement? We also did a piece around our positioning. The way that we were positioning ourselves out in the external marketplace just simply wasn't going to cut it anymore. And it really wasn't answering or responding to a lot of the motivations of this audience. And one of the big challenges that we also had was, whereas previously we were competing primarily against the big four for this talent and other really large organizations in that space, actually our competitor landscape today looks very different. As you will all know, this talent is very much in demand, and it means that we're competing against organizations who may be a bit more entrepreneurial, a bit more responsive to change and agile. And that's been a really big challenge for us as well as an organization. So a lot of work was being done at a global level internally. We started to go out into the marketplace with our future of work narratives, but we were also responding to this as a region. So if I think of us over here in EMEA, the global material was fantastic, but it didn't necessarily take on board a lot of the cultural nuances that you can sometimes see in a lot of our markets. So we took that material, we tweaked and tailored it. We also needed to think about financial services specifically. That is the sector that we specialize in. And we almost have this added challenge because, as you know, the financial services space has not always had the best reputation. And when it comes to things like purpose, being dedicated to a cause, people can sometimes struggle to see the link between that and what we do within FS. So we created a lot of really bespoke materials in that space. At a country level as well, we've been ensuring that we've been giving our markets the freedom to really take a lot of this material and tweak and tailor it for their audience. The challenges that we have in the German market are going to be very different from the challenges that we have here in the UK. And we've been really relying on the expertise of our local teams to understand how we can really switch up our channels and our strategy. And we've seen in some of our mature markets, they've been doing some really cool stuff on campus that's been really great to see. Now, across all of this, we were also very aware when we launched our new Next Wave strategy at the back end of last year, we just felt that our EVP, which really underpinned everything that we do within the talent space, just wasn't really quite fit for purpose anymore. And it was in need of a bit of a refresh to really reflect a lot of the changes that we were going through. Previously, our EVP was around the exceptional EY experience. So no matter when you join, how long you stay, we will offer you an exceptional experience that you can take from EY and beyond. But actually, as we started to think about what we were offering as an organization, so if that was the tech, our culture, our people, the projects, the clients you get to work with, we can offer that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the onus is on the individual to really maximize and make the most of these opportunities. So we've made a really big shift in some of our messaging, and the EVP has now incorporated "it's yours to build," really making sure that we're emphasizing you've got a lot of opportunities at your disposal, but it's what you do with those opportunities that will make or break your exceptional EY experience. So that's something that's been starting to roll out across all of our internal comms, whether that's through recruitment, through L&D, sustainability, D&I, every aspect of talent. But what we have been very mindful of is we do not want all of this change to feel like a marketing and communications exercise. And I think sometimes it's very easy to get into that habit. You know, here's a list of what this audience is looking for. Well, let's just tweak our communications so that we say we're innovative and we have a great culture and we embrace flexible working. But actually, it's really important that you need to be able to back that up. And what we didn't want to do is to be over promising in that attraction phase. And then once individuals enter the business, we would be under delivering, because obviously that's not going to lead to retention of this key talent. So in addition to all of the messaging and the comms and all that external activity, we thought actually we need to take a step back, and as part of this next wave, really understand how can we create a step change in the actual lived experiences of our people so that we're matching what we're putting out there externally, and we're also responding to a lot of those needs of this audience. And there's a lot of change that has come from a talent function. This is just a snapshot of some of the big pieces of work that we have been delivering. First and foremost, we are looking at introducing a new career model. And what we've been guilty of in the past is we tended to make the assumption that when new talent entered our organization, they would want to pursue a very linear career path, working their way up to becoming a partner. And that's a great ambition to have, and if that's something that you aspire to, that's amazing, and we'll make sure that we can help facilitate that. But we were very conscious that actually, particularly for the new talent we were bringing in, not only from a STEM perspective, but even a generational perspective, they didn't want that linear career path. It just felt too rigid. So we've been looking at how can we offer multi-track career pathways within the business. Previously, if you joined our tax profession, you would sort of be pigeonholed within that practice, and you wouldn't really have the ability to extend that experience and have opportunities in other areas of the business. So we are now starting to look very much at the individual. What are the skill sets that you have? What are your areas of expertise? And although you might be applying that within the tax practice, actually, is there an opportunity for you to get some exposure over in our consulting arm or over in our assurance arm? So really looking at how we can diversify that portfolio and just ensure that people can have really unique career journeys. And this extends through things like the way that we promote people. We want to be a bit more agile in that respect. You don't want to be rewarding, tenure, how long you've been at the firm, but actually the work that you're delivering and the impact that you are having on our clients. To help facilitate that, we've also been looking at a new talent marketplace and making sure that people have visibility of the opportunities that are out there. As you can imagine, it's great as an organization that we are quite large and we can offer these different opportunities, but our people are really busy and they're being inundated with communications. There's a lot of noise out there, and sometimes you won't even be aware that these opportunities exist. So we're looking at this talent marketplace to make that a bit more visible and much more at the forefront when it comes to our talent. We are also very aware that oftentimes a lot of this change is going to be dictated by our leaders and the tone that they are setting at the top. So coming into our next financial year, which we kick off next year, we're going to be doing a lot of work around our new transformative leadership model. And it's about equipping our leaders with the different behaviors and skill sets that they need to really be leading this talent who comes from very different backgrounds, very different experiences in a really authentic way. And a huge part of this model is really around purpose, not only your purpose as an individual, but how that links in with our wider organizational purpose and how we really live and breathe that on a daily basis. Perhaps one of the biggest changes that I have seen in the 6 years that I've been with EY is the increasing focus on obviously bringing in these new skills and experiences, but also looking at our existing talent and understanding how can we upskill them in a lot of these future focused skills so that they also can prepare for the changing workforce. And one of the big programs that we launched globally was something called EY Badges. And EY Badges is available to anyone respective of rank, service line, or market. And what it is you can subscribe to a series of learning. It could be online modules, it could be face-to-face training, it could be hours of experience on the job. And it would allow you to obtain badges in different topics and themes that would also be externally accredited. And these topic and themes cover a lot of areas like innovation, design thinking, transformative leadership, emerging tech, sustainability. So there really is something there for everyone, depending on where your expertise lies and your interest. Hot off the press, we are also launching a new tech MBA. This is actually going live. We're going to start speaking about this externally next week. And the tech MBA is very much a first for our organization, and I think in the wider sector as well. And what it will allow our people to do is, if they have completed a series of badges in particular topics and themes, they would be eligible to obtain a tech MBA that we are awarding in collaboration with Holt International Business School. So it's an accreditation that they can take and obviously bring into the work that they're doing at EY. But equally, if they were to go off and join another organization or go off into industry, that's also something that they can use for their own personal portfolio. And we do not tie individuals into EY. So, if they want to obtain a badge or the MBA, there's no restrictions. They don't have to continue to work at EY, although we certainly hope that they would remain with us. And then last but not least, there's a really huge piece of work going on into our EVP and how we really bring this purpose to life. One thing I've always been very mindful of is, it's one thing to go out with all of these great communications and this messaging, but at the end of the day, your exceptional experience is going to be determined by the people in your immediate circle. And we're starting to look into, how can we engage our people, whether that be our line managers, our counselors, our partners, your colleagues, so that they're really living and breathing this ethos on a day-to-day basis. Because it's simply not going to be enough just putting out a lot of those central communications. And then last but not least, just a really big piece of work that we're doing around purpose. We know this is important to our audience. We have recently introduced something called EY Ripples, where people would actually be able to log on and see different volunteering opportunities and experiences that they could have, whether that be supporting internal teams or also some of the charities and foundations that we also work with externally as well. So that's some of the change that we're beginning to embark upon. As you can imagine, it's a bit of a mammoth task to roll this out globally and also factor in all of the differences that you have across markets and regions. We feel comfortable enough now that we can start to go external with a lot of this messaging. So what you will see in the communications that we're starting to push outside of EY is, there's a really big push around the unique career paths that you can now have at EY and how we are helping to facilitate that. And also there's a big emphasis around the skills piece. Obviously the work that we're doing to upskill our existing employees, but also really highlighting the different opportunities that people would have to have a bit of broader exposure to all these different things across the business. So more focus on quality over quantity. I think we've been very guilty in the past of a lot of broadcast messaging, really speaking at our audience about all the great things that we do, but not really backing it up with any of those tangible proof points. Now, more recently, specifically within our EMEA financial services region, as I said earlier, we have an added challenge in that financial services does not have the best reputation. And we really wanted to change some of the misconceptions people might have about what it is like to work within our sector and our industry. And one of our most recent campaigns, which was Bring Yourself, Not Just Your Subject, we really wanted to illustrate that actually, it's about the skills you're bringing in rather than, the specific degree you might hold or the specific experience. It's about your potential and how we can really leverage that at EY. And one of the things we did that was a first for us was we created something called the Future Skills Quiz, which you can see a screenshot there on screen. And what this allowed our audience to do was to come online, take part in the quiz. They would answer a series of questions, respond to different scenarios. And based on those responses, we would provide them with a personalized skills report that would outline, where did we feel their strengths currently lie and what are some of the skills that they seem to illustrate in those responses, but equally where there be any opportunities to really improve or enhance these even further moving forward. And we didn't put a hard sell on EY. That wasn't something that we wanted to do. We really wanted this content to be value adding for our audience, whether they did want to apply to EY or not. And you'll see there, we also partnered with a number of external experts within this space as well. So we had some professors that we partnered with where they could elaborate just a bit more on what this skill actually is. So if we look at emotional intelligence, for example, why is that so important within the space of financial services? People often think it's your numerical skills that are hugely important, but actually there's a lot of softer skills that have relevance as well. And we were asking questions, is this something you're born with? Is it something that you can develop? What are some really practical actions that you can take on a day-to-day basis to make sure that you're also building those skills, whether it's at EY or not? So that campaign has gone down really well. We launched it centrally at a pan-EMEA level, but a lot of our markets also took it and have used it to help prompt some of the discussions they've been having with candidates out on campus and when they enter the recruitment process as well. And really just trying to, I suppose, move away from a lot of the talking heads that you often see on these marketing and comms. So, as I mentioned earlier, we are very much still on this journey. It's not something that we have completed. There's still a lot that needs to be done, but these are just some of the things that we have learned along the way. I guess first and foremost, often it is about who you meet. So you kind of need to give fate a helping hand. When I speak to a lot of our existing talent and I ask them, how did you find yourself at EY? In many cases, it was not a deliberate thing that they set out to do. It happened to be that they knew a friend of a friend. They might have met one of our partners or ambassadors out there on campus who really persuaded them to consider EY. So you really need to make sure that you are tapping into that power of employee advocacy. And we've been doing this informally, just getting more people out on campus to speak to people. But we've also introduced things like our new employee advocacy platform, which will allow people to have access to all of this talent content and material that they can share with their own networks in the social space or even in person through a lot of their networks. And that's not always going to be the partners. I think people often think the influencers in the countries are going to be the partners, but actually, we need people from every rank and every service line being part of this story and helping to share that externally. We've also really seen the importance of being able to show and tell what we are doing. Candidates are really cynical about what a company claims to do. We can go out and say we're innovative and we do lots of stuff within the tech space, but what are we actually doing and what does that look like? So a lot of our hiring managers and our ambassadors on campus have been looking to demo a lot of this tech and to actually really illustrate in real terms, these are the kind of projects that we've delivered for clients. This is the scale and this is the impact that it actually had. We've also been bringing candidates into our various wave space centers. So we have, I believe it's about 35 that have been set up globally. And it's a center where we allow our clients to come in and really experience new ways of thinking and new ways of adopting designs and solutions for their customers. So we actually bring candidates in so they can experience and kind of have a touch and feel with a lot of that tech in those demos. A one-size-fits-all approach definitely doesn't work. It's so tempting, because it's a lot easier to do to come up with all this global and regional messaging, but actually every market is so unique and so different. And a big part of my role has been building those relationships with my counterparts in each of our countries, really understanding, what are some of the pain points that you're experiencing and how can we make all of our central material just work that much harder for you? A lot of it sometimes is around helping them to change some of those mindsets. In some markets, they're very responsive to a lot of this new talent coming in and switching things up. In other markets, they may be just a bit more conservative and traditional. So a lot of work that we do to really partner with these countries. We also know that tech respects tech. We cannot rely on all the old channels and platforms that we used to do. If we look at those universal rankings, it's just not working. So we need to work harder and we need to be present at the events and the channels and the platforms where these individuals are going to be. And we have started to tap into our existing tech talent and bringing them onto this journey, whether that's going out on campus, whether it's featuring in a lot of our material. And actually, we've been using them as a bit of a focus group to soundboard all of our ideas. Some of the feedback we got was even the language that we were using just wouldn't appeal to this audience, and we were sounding really dated and like an accountancy firm that was trying to keep up with the competition. So that's been hugely helpful for us. And a big piece has just been around that value adding content, as I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of noise on social media, particularly in this age that we're all in, where we're seeing that social media consumption increase quite significantly. So you have to be really careful and really tailored with the messaging that you're putting out there. And then last but not least, winning hearts and minds often starts in the classroom. Sometimes it's too late if you wait for once people have actually finished that experience. So we've been partnering with different faculties to understand how can we get some of our leaders, our partners, some of our staff out into classrooms, really taking people through what it is that we deliver as a business, regardless of whether they want to ultimately come up and join EY. So really starting to shift some of those perceptions and that credibility challenge that we really tend to have amongst this audience. So that has been a whirlwind tour of the journey that we've been on. And in all honesty, we could spend days going through any one of those initiatives in great detail. So if there is any aspects there that you really wanted to touch upon in more detail, I'm really happy for anyone to reach out. Always great and keen to hear stories from other sectors and industries as well.